Hey, I'm Chicken Johnny. You're out in the garden with Chicken Johnny. We're about to plant some garlic. The first thing I have to do is lightly till the field. Now, this is a field that we tilled together a while back. And if you look down at the soil, I don't know if you can pick it up, but there are little cotyledon weeds. Now, I don't know what those are. It's probably amaranth or something along that line. There's a little bit of grass in there too. Get a couple of these rocks out of here. It's pretty well cleared out and ready to go, but I want to get those cotyledons knocked out. So I'm going to set my tiller very shallow as I can get it, and I'm going to re-till this whole area, thereby killing all of those weeds. I was going to plant buckwheat out here, but I wasn't sure how much I was going to need for garlic. So I've got 100 garlic heads. That should give me about 800 garlic cloves, and that's what we're going to plant in here. So I haven't taken the time to figure out what that's going to take. I'm just going to till this whole field under. Whatever I don't plant in garlic, I might go ahead and plant buckwheat or something. I still have a little bit of time for a couple of years. Here we go. Okay, so earlier I said I was going to use 15, 15, 15. I'm wrong on that. It's 14, 14, 14, but it really doesn't make a difference. It's just a balanced fertilizer. Nitrogen level is 14. The phosphorus level is 14. The potassium level is 14. It's what we call a balanced fertilizer. So the rest of the material that's in there, there are some micronutrients in here. This is not really a good micronutrient treatment. That's what I put the horse manure on for. But right now I'm just putting on the 14, 14, 14 to give it some balanced fertilizer. I'll do it again in the spring. And so for right now I'm just going to throw this can. This is a Chase and Sanborn brand coffee can. I put it in there because it gives the 14, 14, 14 good mojo. So I'm going to throw this on this quarter of this field where I plan on planting my garlic. So here we go. So because of the rocks that I have in this ground, this is probably the worst ground I have. That's why I like planting alliums in here, because when I plant alliums I can get down on my hands and knees. I get a lot of those rocks out. So that's spreading the fertilizer. You don't want a lot of it. You can kind of see here how I spread it. That's a little thick in a few spots. It's a little thin over in here. That's a real thick spot there. Now, those thick spots really aren't going to hurt anything because I'm going to incorporate this. I'm going to go take the Kubota and I'm going to run across this with the tiller on and just till this in. Hit it one more time. And what I'm hoping to accomplish with that is to just till this into the top 3 inches of the soil, and that'll fertilize the weed. The other thing I'm going to do before I plant this is I'm going to spread truffland over this area here, and the truffland will keep the weeds out for the next 2 months as we're waiting for the frost to come in. Next spring I'll hit this section again with truffland. I'll probably mark out the area where I planted the garlic. Marking it out will help me remember next year how far it went, so before the crop actually comes out, I'll be able to work it. Now, I don't know how far that crop is going to go. I think I'll probably end up with 4 rows of about 200 cloves per row. At 4 inches of separation, I should be able to get it into a fairly small spot. And I think I'll do that. I think I'll plant it in close rows instead of leaving area to cultivate with the tractor. I think I'll plant it close together. I'm going to try to use the truffland throughout next year as well to keep the weeds down around the garlic. I wanted to show you. Now obviously the garlic comes like this. It's a head of garlic and it's still got the roots on it, but the hard neck part of it is still kind of sticking through a little bit. And we're going to peel these down to where we get just to the cloves. And the way you do that is you just take the garlic in your hand and you kind of separate it like that. And you try to keep, I'm hoping that these will grow well for me. Because some of them seem to be maybe a little bit dry. But I'm not going to worry about it too much. I'm going to put them in the ground and see what happens. You try not to tear the paper, but you see I tore the paper off on that one. maybe it won't grow. Some of them are that way. To be honest with you, I've never planted garlic like this before. We planted a few cloves in a garlic or in a garden bed, but never at the kind of quantities. I bought 100 heads of hardneck garlic, and this is of the variety they call it music. And the reason that I bought this is because that's what my wholesaler had. I wanted to buy Montana Giants, but I couldn't buy them because they didn't have any. Um, I don't know if they sold them all to somebody else or they might not have had a very good harvest of them. I'll be honest, I don't know what the garlic cloves are really, what kind of tolerance we have in terms of the quality. These seem to be a little drier to me than what I would expect them to be. But as I said, I don't have a lot of experience with the garlic. So what you're going to see is not a demonstration necessarily of how to do it, but how I'm doing it. And some of you in the comments, you might write down, well, chicken, you should have done this, you should have done that. And that's great because then I know, to do it next year. But what I've done is I've created a bed, and I've planted some of this already, but I planted a bed here, and maybe you can see that right along through here. I've got a bed that's been planted, and I wanted to do that so that I kind of had an idea of what I was doing. What I'm going to do next, I'm going to show you, I made a little jig. This is my garlic planting jig, and all it does is it creates a 4-inch wide spacing. So I'll go down the whole row this way, and then I'll bring it back and I'll go across this way. And it gives me a nice spacing so that later when I go to cultivate, I can set the cultivators up either on the tractor or I can do it by hand. Just take a hoe and drag it down. The more evenly spaced anything is, the easier it's going to be to cultivate it in the future. Now, I don't expect to have to cultivate this year. I expect it'll be in the spring of the year I'll have to come in and cultivate this a little bit. I don't really expect to have much grow this year. In fact, I'm intending for it not to grow up above the ground, but I'd like to see some root development before the frost comes in. We're about maybe 30 days from our first frost, but it'll be a light frost, I hope. In fact, I'm hoping this year we don't get a lot of cold weather, but we will. So I'm going to take my jig and I'm going to push it through the field using just a rake. I'm hoping that that'll allow me to get a nice straight line. So let me set it up so you can see what I'm doing. And here we go. We're going to set up to plant some garlic. Now, where those lines crossed, I'm going to go ahead and put cloves in the ground. When you plant the cloves, there's the rooted side and the pointed side. You want to plant the root side down, and that's imperative with garlic. Other alliums, well, it's not all that important, but with garlic, it's essential. Well, I want to give you a little bit of a closer look and perspective on how we do this. I've got my lines down this way that I ran with the jig, and then I set the jig down in the ground, and it gives me these cross lines. I move it forward to where I'm overlapping into the last line. And now I've got 9 spaces, or actually 12 spaces. So I'm going to lay out 12 cloves of garlic. Well, actually, I don't know how oh, because those are already done. That's why. I've got 12 cloves of garlic out there. And then I'm going to take my finger like this here. I don't know if you can see that, but I'm just going to take my finger and push the garlic down into the ground until my finger's completely buried in the ground, and that's about 3 inches. So we're going to do that repeatedly. So our garlic clove is going to be about 3.5 inches down. That's a bad one. We want single cloves of garlic, and we're on a 4-inch spacing. And we do that another 300, 400 times, and we'll have it done. Let me give you a little bit closer view. Have you ever pollinated peppers with the Chicken Johnny pepper pollinator? Well, now plant garlic with the Chicken Johnny garlic pollinator. It's time. Let me show you how it works. First, we made our grid with this incredible Chicken Johnny grid maker. This is a 4-inch grid maker that makes a perfect grid for planting garlic. Now, we take the back side of a rake and we double the ground. Now, take your pepper pollinator, depress it, place the garlic inside of its mouth, and simply squeeze it in. Place the garlic clove in Chicken Johnny's mouth. Now, press it out, and presto, this garlic almost plants itself. Watch again as I take the garlic, place it into Chicken Johnny's mouth, and then drop it in the hole. It's so simple. Even a southerner can do it. I'll bet you the woodchuck could handle using the Chicken Johnny power garlic planter. So order today and you'll get the pepper pollinator for $9.99. But then get the garlic planter by just paying separate shipping and handling. Down to the last couple of garlics, we're just going to press them in using our thumb. Now, when I put these in, I take the garlic in my finger like that with my thumb on the wide section. I push down. When I get it all the way down, I push my thumb in that direction to straighten that garlic out. So I know it's planted exactly straight up every time. Don't bother with gimmicks like the Chicken Johnny pepper pollinator or the Chicken Johnny garlic planter. Do it with a thumbs up. That's it. That's the peppers for the season. Well, I'm Chicken Johnny. Go out and plant you some garlic. Emitzer Shem, I'll see you again. Eat your vegetables. Hey, check out #ShedWars on YouTube. Lots to see. Take care.